Hello, and welcome to English for Philosophy students. We're in the middle of our Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life series. This is lesson number 69 of the book and lesson number 22 of lesson number 7, which is pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Last time, we ended with the idea that if you have at the top of your moral hierarchy the value of reducing unnecessary suffering, then choosing to do things which reduce suffering even by a little is a moral obligation, not a moral option. In other words, it's a duty, not a choice. You're a good person if you consistently choose to do that which will reduce suffering even a little, rather than choosing to do that which will give you pleasure in the short term or long term. And the last paragraph we looked at suggested that certain mundane tasks will present themselves to you, such as doing the pile of undone paperwork, or cleaning up the room, making a room more welcoming, or putting a bit more effort into making a meal for your family. And it says that these things become moral obligations. And as you do them, you experience ever-deepening meaning, which is not the same as bliss or happiness, but it's quite good in itself. Also, the very last point I felt was a little bit negative. He is saying it's the least we can do to make up for the evil of mankind, which we participate in to some extent, and we are potentially very evil. We could be like Stalin or Hitler. It is within us. And so, to make up for that, we should do our part to clean up the mess of unnecessary suffering that humanity collectively has created. So let us move on. I'm hoping we will completely finish today. So, expedience. That's hiding all the skeletons in the closet. Let me see if my glasses make it better or worse. So, expedience. That's hiding all the skeletons in the closet. That's covering the blood you just spilled with a carpet. That's avoiding responsibility. All of this is expedience. It's cowardly, shallow, and wrong. It's wrong because mere expedience, multiplied by many repetitions, produces the character of a demon. I speak to my grandchildren kind of often about little things they do wrong. They say, "Why can't I do this?" And I say, "Because we are not barbarians." And they say, "What's a barbarian?" And I describe Attila the Hun, someone who went about destroying and raping and pillaging and etc. And they say, but the little thing I was doing doesn't make me Attila the Hun. But Jordan Peterson points out that mere expedience, meaning only a small selfish act, mere means small selfish act, repeated over and over, multiplied by many repetitions, produces the character of a demon. Someone once said that if two men meet on the side of a mountain stand and talk to one another for a few moments, just looking at them, you would not be able to tell if one is climbing the mountain and the other is going down the mountain. You would not be able to tell which one was climbing and which one was going down, even if you knew that one was climbing and one was going down. You couldn't differentiate which one is on the ascent and which one is on the descent. But the truth is, those two men have opposite destinations. One of them will end up at the top, the other will end up at the bottom. They are currently at the same place. And morally, we can look at someone, two people, and maybe they're exactly the same in their level of moral character today. But it is possible that one of them is on the ascent and going to become like the angels, and the other is on the descent, spiraling down and going to be like the demons. And it's little actions that take you in one direction or the other. Olavo says that in terms of moral growth, the key is baby steps. The key is not to try to do a complete moral overhaul and become perfect overnight. The key is to choose one area of imperfection and make it a little bit better all the time. At any given time, you should be working on one small area to make it better. And over time, you will make wonderful progress by doing small things one at a time. Okay, so back to expedience. And expedience means hiding all the skeletons in the closet. Hiding skeletons in the closet is an idiom in English to talk about concealing your faults, presenting a shining image to the world when really your life is full of bad stuff which you hide. That's skeletons in the closet. So expedience is hiding your brokenness, your fracturedness, your evil. Expedience is covering the blood you just spilled with a carpet. The blood you just spilled suggests you have stabbed someone or murdered someone, or you have done an evil act, and you are covering it up. You are hiding it. You are not honestly and courageously admitting your fault and trying to make it right. You are hiding it. Expedience, that's avoiding responsibility. Responsibility admits your fault and tries to alleviate the damage. Expedience tries to get away with it. Expedience is cowardly, not brave. shallow, not deep, and wrong. It's wrong because mere expedience multiplied by many repetitions produces the character of a demon. It's wrong because expedience merely transfers the curse on your head to someone else or to your future self in a manner that will make your future and the future generally worse instead of better. So, it transfers the curse on your head. If you have done something bad, you deserve punishment. You are under a curse. You have purchased the whirlwind. That means you have brought upon yourself punishment. But expedience would take that punishment and give it to someone else. Your child, your wife, your business, your boss, someone else. So it transfers the punishment, the consequences, to someone else, or it transfers it to your future self. So you have stolen money now, later you will have to go to jail in a manner that will make your future and the future generally worse instead of better. There's no faith and no courage. Hold on. There's no faith and no courage and no sacrifice in doing what is expedient. There's no careful observation that actions and presuppositions matter, or that the world is made of what matters. To have meaning in your life is better than to have what you want, because you may neither know now what you want, so you may neither know what you want nor what you truly need. Meaning is something that comes upon you of its own accord. You can set up the preconditions, you can follow meaning when it manifests itself, but you cannot simply produce it as an act of the will. Meaning signifies that you are in the right place at the right time, properly balanced between order and chaos, where everything lines up as best it can at the moment. Let's go back. There is no faith and no courage and no sacrifice in doing what is expedient. Faith means believing in what you can't see yet. So if I'm investing money in the stock market, I am having faith that the economy will be stable, the currency will be stable, the economy will grow, that, I am putting trust in these institutions. So I have faith in that. There's no faith in expedience. It's just gimme now. No courage, bravery. So it's expedience takes now. Courage lets it go bravely, wondering, not worrying that maybe I will starve because I didn't eat now. And no sacrifice. Do you remember early in the rule, he talked about how early man needed to delay gratification and make sacrifice for the future. Well, there's no sacrifice in expedience. There is no careful observation that actions and presuppositions matter. So this was where we reflected on the context of what is and ordered our priorities correctly. So you must carefully observe what is in order to construct a good moral framework. So, in expedience, you don't carefully observe the world to figure out what matters. You don't even recognize that the world is made up of what matters. What matters means what is important. To have meaning in your life is better than to have what you want. So meaning in your life is sort of insubstantial. It's not something you can quantify and point to materially, but you can tell when it's there. Have you seen movies about old people who lived for themselves and died alone? And they got what they wanted their whole life, and in the end they were empty and sad and miserable and regretted the fact that they didn't do what mattered. They didn't choose what was eternally valuable. They chose what was felt good at the moment, expedient. So to have meaning in your life is better than to have what you want. It's better than to have what you want. Because you may neither, look at this, neither nor. These two words go together, neither nor, and the positive either or. So you may neither, meaning you do not, know what you want, nor, meaning you do not, know what you need. So we use the negative neither and nor for things that we do not have or do. And we use either or for things that we do have or do. So to have meaning in your life is better than getting what you want because you don't know what you want and you don't know what you need. So if you have meaning, that means you have chosen what was truly valuable. If you just do what's expedient, you will not have meaning. You will not choose what is really valuable. Meaning is something that comes upon you of its own accord. Comes upon you. We used to say it's visited upon you. That's archaic. It means it comes without your agency. You cannot make it happen. It happens to you. So meaning is something that happens to you of its own accord. So that means it comes to you. You do not get it. All right? You can set up the preconditions for meaning. In other words, you can build the house that somebody would come and live in, but you can't make them come and live there. Okay? You can set up the preconditions. In other words, you can do what's right according to conventional morality, such as maybe go to school, work hard at a job, delay sex until marriage, have children, etc. within marriage. You can do the things which set up the precondition for meaning being in your life. You can follow meaning. Meaning, for example, you can read books or take courses to help you to know what is truly valuable and then pursue that. So you can follow meaning when it manifests itself. So if you have the opportunity, for example, you come across Olavo courses and you can take them. When you have opportunities, you can follow them. But you cannot simply produce meaning as an act of your will. Meaning signifies that you are in the right place at the right time, properly balanced between order and chaos, where everything lines up as best it can at that moment. So meaning is a little bit like happiness. You can do all the right things, but you can't force yourself to feel happy. It's something that can be elusive. So meaning signifies. So that means meaning means that you're in the right place at the right time, and then balanced between order and chaos. And everything lines up as best it can at the moment. So meaning is defined as the concurrence of many conditions that all line up at once. And then you say, wow, I have it. Here I am. Thank God. I do feel like I'm there in my life right now. Very, very blessed. My life being full of meaning. It's a good place to be. Okay, what is expedient works only for the moment. It's immediate, impulsive, and limited. What is meaningful, by contrast, is the organization of what would otherwise be merely be expedient into a symphony of being. Meaning is what is put forth more powerfully than mere words can express by Beethoven's Ode to Joy, a triumphant bringing forth from the void of pattern after pattern, upon beautiful pattern, every instrument playing its part, disciplined voices layered on top of that, spinning the entire breadth of human emotion from despair to exhilaration. I did not read that well. I'm going to reread it. Let me reread that. What is expedient works only for the moment. It's immediate, impulsive, and limited. What is meaningful, by contrast, is the organization of what would otherwise be merely expedient into a symphony of being. Meaning is what is put forth more powerfully than mere words can express by Beethoven's Ode to Joy, a triumphant bringing forth from the void of pattern after pattern upon beautiful pattern, every instrument playing its part, disciplined voices layered on top of that, spanning the entire breadth of human emotion from despair to exhilaration. So that was better. Let's go through it now with the proper groupings. All right. What is expedient works only for the moment. So that means it does not have an eternal component. It's only good in the moment. What is expedient is immediate, impulsive, and limited. All of those are contrasted with this big analogy with Beethoven's Ode to Joy, which is described in many, many words. So, what is meaningful, by contrast, is the organization of what would otherwise be merely expedient. Okay, so what would otherwise be merely expedient. That means we're going to organize a bunch of random things that in and of themselves might be expedient in the moment, but when you organize them together, prioritize, delay gratification, use discipline, regulate your impulses, take it into consideration the context of how everything works together. When you do all that to all of these random elements, then you turn it all into meaning. It's information. It's taking a lot of chemicals and turning them into a living, breathing human body. So it's the difference between chaos and order, with creativity and life added. So you're taking what would otherwise be merely expedient and turning it into a symphony of being. And remember, being is his code word for life as it is. And it's a symphony of being. Symphonies are very complex, bringing many things together, and beautiful. So you're taking a bunch of random elements that could be expedient by themselves and turning them into a symphony. Meaning is what is put forth. Okay, so put forth means brought into existence. Okay, meaning is what is brought into existence more powerfully than mere words can express by Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Okay, so what he's saying is, I could, one moment please, I am teaching an online class right now, so okay. I'm not available, sorry. What he's saying is, he is saying, I could try to describe meaning in 10,000 words, but it would be better for you just to listen to Beethoven's Ode to Joy. That will show you meaning in a way that you can experience better than my verbal description. So, meaning is what is put forth more powerfully than mere words can express by Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Now, the rest of it is description of Beethoven's Ode to Joy in a bunch of words. Okay, so all the rest of this is describing the Ode to Joy because we're not listening to it, so now he's going to verbally describe it. Ode to Joy is a triumphant bringing forth, which is the same as put forth, sort of, bringing forth, creating, from the void, meaning the void of information, the realm of chaos, the realm of individual pieces that might be expedient by themselves, or the realm of pure chemicals before they come together to form a body. Okay, so from chaos, bringing forth from the void of pattern, so the triumphant bringing forth of pattern after pattern upon beautiful pattern. Pattern after pattern upon beautiful pattern. With the repetition, he is suggesting many layers, layer upon layer upon layer of complexity. He is suggesting more than just three. It's not pattern after beautiful pattern, 3 layers. This repetition is suggesting infinite layers. Pattern upon beautiful pattern. Every instrument playing its part. Okay, so this is order and discipline, because each instrument is not just blowing anything they want. Each instrument is playing their specific notes. And For example, if you are playing the drum, that big timpani, the great kettle drum in a symphony, you may have to wait through 30 measures of music in order to make one big pound. And that's all you do in the whole symphony. But that is your part. You're not allowed to just pound away anytime you want. You have to wait, and then pound at the very right moment, and then nothing else the whole time. That's each instrument playing its part. Disciplined voices layered on top of that. So you've got all that instrumental music going on, and then we bring in the next layer of beauty and complexity, which is the human voices, the choir singing. On top of the music, layered, again, we're suggesting more than we're stating. On top of that, spanning the entire breadth of human emotion. So this is really almost like hyperbole. It's extreme. It's spanning the entire breadth of human emotion, from despair to exhilaration. So he is saying that the Ode to Joy contains that level of complexity and that level of pulling together random elements in a disciplined pattern that creates glorious meaning. And he's using this to describe meaning, how it is in your life. So another one now. Let's see. Let's go to here. Meaning is what manifests itself when the many levels of being arrange themselves into a perfectly functioning harmony. From atomic microcosm to cell, to organ, to individual, to society, to nature, to cosmos, so that action at each level beautifully and perfectly facilitates action at all levels, such that past, present, and future are all at once redeemed and reconciled. Hold on one moment. I am teaching an online class right now, so be quiet if you can. Meaning is what, hold on one sec. Meaning is what emerges beautifully and profoundly, like a newly formed rosebud, opening itself out of nothingness into the light of sun and God. Meaning is the lotus striving upward through the dark lake depths, through the ever-clearing water, blooming forth on the very surface, revealing within itself the golden Buddha, himself perfectly integrated, such that the revelation of the divine will can make itself manifest in his every word and gesture. So, let's go back. Jordan Peterson is really trying to paint a picture of meaning that would look like heaven. And we, as creatures of earth and fallen creatures, can't really imagine heaven. He's trying really hard to take the most perfect and complex things in nature and using them as an analogy to help us to understand that there is something beyond this material world and expedience, and that something is worth sacrificing everything for. So we'll read a little more closely. Meaning is what manifests itself when the many levels of being arrange themselves into a perfectly functioning harmony. So perfectly functioning harmony. Harmony is a musical term which harmony occurs when different sounds are paired together in very specific relationships that are pleasing. Not just arbitrarily pleasing, but correct from a physics perspective. They are resonating sound waves. And so he's saying, the many levels of being are arranging themselves in perfect harmony. From atomic microcosm, so we talked about different atoms, different pure chemicals coming together to form a body, and a body that is alive. So he's going for that right now. Atomic microcosm. Microcosm is a small picture of a bigger organization. Atomic microcosm to cell. So a cell is a very complex arrangement of chemicals that already has life. To organ. Organ is many, many, many cells which are organized to fulfill a function in a body to maintain life. To individual, that means that's one human being. The organ supports the body of one human being, one individual. To society, which is a conglomeration and an organization of many human individuals. To nature, so that would be the environment of the earth with all of its human societies all over the globe functioning. To cosmos. So cosmos is our universe. So atomic, atoms to galaxies. Meaning is what manifests itself. So it shows itself in this kind of complexity and organization and working together and harmony and fruitfulness and functioning. So that action at each level beautifully and perfectly facilitates action at all. That means action at all means, what he means is action at every level. So action at every level facilitates the entire action, the entire functionality. Everything works correctly. Such that, so in such a way that past, present, and future are all at once redeemed and reconciled. So meaning is the antidote to the fall. Meaning is the reestablishment of Eden. Meaning is the new Jerusalem, heaven on earth. Meaning is what emerges beautifully and profoundly like a newly formed rosebud opening itself out of nothingness into the light of the sun and into the vision of God. You can watch that on Time Photography on YouTube, the rosebud opening up. This is meaning. It's in 4 dimensions. It includes time. Meaning is the lotus, striving upward through the dark lake depths, through the ever-clearing water, blooming forth on the very surface, revealing itself, within itself, the golden Buddha, himself perfectly integrated. such that the revelation of the divine will can make itself manifest in his every word and gesture. So I think it would be Buddha's every word and gesture. And the lotus, I think this type of plant has significance in Eastern religion. Striving upward through the dark lake depths, this is a picture of the evolution of human beings striving upward from being animal to being spiritual, but fallen, to being more like angels. Okay, so striving upward through the dark lake depths, through the ever-clearing water. The higher you get to the surface, closer to the surface, the clearer the water is, because the sun purifies it. All of the bacteria and the growth of algae and stuff, it tends to be more toward the bottom. Murky water. But clearer water is at the top. And then blooming on the edge of the water at the top, and opening to reveal the golden Buddha, which obviously is part of Eastern religion. And the Buddha himself is perfectly integrated, meaning he is not fallen. He is not choosing expediency. He has already reached nirvana. He is all that he can ever be and should be. And in him, the divine will can make itself manifest through his every word and gesture. So all of this is a picture of what you and I can participate in if we do what Olavo says and take the baby steps every minute and every day. Do the small thing, which will alleviate suffering, unnecessary suffering, and sort of increase the joy of the universe. Meaning is when everything there is comes together in an ecstatic dance of single purpose, the glorification of a reality, so that no matter how good it has suddenly become, it can get better and better and better, more and more deeply, forever into the future. So all of this strikes me as just being Jordan Peterson's attempt to just wave his hands and say, it's just beyond words. The goodness of this is too much to describe. He is just doing his best to describe that which is better than we can imagine. Meaning happens when that dance, that ecstatic dance of single purpose, has become so intense that all the horrors of the past, all the terrible struggle engaged in by all of life and all of humanity up till that moment, becomes a necessary and worthwhile part of the increasingly successful attempt to build something truly mighty and good. I myself have a hope that in heaven, all of the things that I have a question about, all of the things that I could accuse God and say, how could you justify allowing this suffering? That the answer will be clear to me, that it had to be that way in order for this greater good. And even those who suffered are now saying, yes, it had to be this way, or I could not have experienced this good. I hope, this is part of my Christian hope and part of my faith, that whatever God has done and is doing and will do, is right, and that I will affirm it as right when I can see everything. That's my hope. Meaning is the ultimate balance between, on the one hand, the chaos of transformation and possibility, on the one hand, and on the other hand, the discipline of pristine order. So we've got chaos and order. in balance. The chaos contains a good deal of the creativity, imagination, and possibilities of change. The order contains a good deal of the discipline and regulation and sacrifice that makes meaning possible. You must have both, because order stifles life. If it is like order is, a totalitarian society is ordered, but there's no freedom to allow for some chaos in order to allow for some creativity. So you must have some chaos and some order. The two must be in a certain tension to create meaning. Okay. Meaning is the ultimate balance between, on the one hand, the chaos of transformation and possibility, and on the other hand, the discipline in order, whose purpose is to produce, out of the attendant chaos, a new order that will be even more immaculate and capable of bringing forth a still more balanced and productive chaos and order. So the idea is order is always present to regulate chaos. Chaos contains the imagination and the possibilities, transformation and change. But run amok, it also burns down the city. Order keeps the chaos contained and regulated in such a way that it can be productive and it can keep coming up with new forms of meaning. Meaning is the way, the path of life more abundant, the place you live when you are guided by love and speaking truth, and when nothing you want or could possibly want takes any precedence over precisely that. Precisely what? Precisely the choice of meaning over expedience. So nothing you want could take precedence over the meaning that you live for. Do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. We're almost out of time. Yesterday, I heard a podcast about some of the heroes of American history. Because these days, the public schools in America are teaching children that America has never been good, that America has always been sort of trying to conquer an empire, a world empire for itself, take over the Middle East and grab their oil, conquer South America and export our way of life and get them all to do for us, and that we have been selfish and small and petty and evil throughout our existence. This is what is being inculcated into our children. So this podcast was bringing forth stories of heroes from mainly military history, because we are near Memorial Day, which is the day when we honor our military dead. And I heard 3 or 4 really amazing stories. And in each case, the hero of the story was a young man who was in a battle. And for example, in 2 of the stories, the young man was actually a medic, a doctor. He wasn't there trying to fight. He was there trying to heal and bind up wounds. But in each case, these doctors found themselves in the battle, and they had to take up arms to defend the wounded that they were caring for on the battlefield. And in each case, the doctor went and maybe took over a machine gun where all of the former people who were running it were already dead. And then, he used it to defend the medical establishment while they were getting the patients out, and he was killed. There was one where it was, again, a doctor who was fixing up soldiers on the battlefield when he ran into machine gun fire to get to the patients, and he was wounded in his chest. But he himself refused medical treatment. He simply kept ministering to the other people and explaining how for other people to bind up wounds while he himself was bleeding. And then he got hit by a mortar and actually lost his arm. And he continued directing others as to how to stabilize the wounded until he himself was being carried out and died on the way to the helicopter. So I heard 3 or 4 stories like this. And I thought about the mental state of the men who did it. I am sure that they wanted, see, it says here, nothing you want. They wanted to live. Nothing you could possibly want. They probably wanted to see their wives and children again, to be there for their children to grow up, to see their grandchildren someday. They wanted to live, but nothing they wanted could take any precedence over the meaning that they served. And they served an ethic that said, I must reduce suffering. I must heal the wounds. I must put myself in the way of the enemy winning the battle, because my country's freedoms and survival depends on soldiers defending it. So I can see how devoting yourself to that which is meaningful really does trump expedience. Expedience is doing what will help you at the moment. And these men who were such heroes, when they saw the enemy coming, they could have run. They could have retreated. There were many things they could have done to save themselves. But that expedient choice is cowardly and shallow and narrow, etc. So nothing they could want trumped that which they lived for, and they created meaning. And their stories are creating meaning today. So, the last thing to do when you have read an enormous essay or chapter like this is to go back and survey the, Go back and survey the chapter titles and the underlined portions to try to put the entire message into one context. We don't have time to do this in any detail, but let's go back and take a quick look at what we have already studied. So I think what I'm going to try to do is show you the entire, just get rid of my face. See if I can do this. I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I know how. Maybe I can't do it. I'd love to be able to get rid of my face. So that you can have more of the screen. Maybe I can't do that. Oh, here we go. This might work. Nope, still can't. Maybe I have to do it this way. Aha, there it is. Okay, now, that wasn't great. I'm sorry, here I am. Here I am wasting the little bit of time we have. But if I can't do it, I won't do it. Darn. Okay, well, here we are. So we can't get it to be doubled, but let me just see one more time. Oh well. Okay, let's go back. Now I have to get rid of this. Oh no, I'm so sorry. All right, well, maybe that will go away. Yes, it did. Let's go back to the very top. I wonder if this would help. That might be a little better. So the first thing we look at is the picture. It's the Pietà. And you have these children down here in the corner looking at it. And they're considering. And it's a picture of the Virgin Mary with the body of Jesus dead off the cross. And Jesus is the one who definitely chose meaning over expedience. So that's an image. Now, let's see if I can do this. Rule 7, pursue what is meaningful. So we're going to chase it. What is meaningful, not what is experience. Get while the getting is good. That is a phrase that goes along with the idea of expedience. The idea being you're not going to have an opportunity forever, so take it while you can get it. Then we go into the delay of gratification. And this is where Jordan Peterson was talking about the evolution of human beings and how they learned how to control and organize their immediate, I'm going to do this, control and organize their immediate impulses. Okay, and trying to continue. And we had to ask the question, what must be sacrificed? And our second question, will sacrifice improve my future? And what we ultimately, and what's the most effective sacrifice that we could possibly make? And we discovered the most effective sacrifice would probably be either your life or the life of your children. Okay? Why isn't God happy? Here I am sacrificing. Maybe I need to sacrifice something more. Okay. We need to be generous. We need to choose something that lasts, something reliable. Okay, continue. Delay of gratification is an important part of it. It's a bargain with the future. And what is the greatest possible sacrifice? The answers become increasingly deep and profound. You must sacrifice what you love best. And we ended up like your son, your child, Abraham and Isaac. the Bible tells stories that contain this information. We also talked about Cain and Abel. So something valuable given up ensures future prosperity. Something valuable sacrificed pleases the Lord. This is the beginning of religion. And we move back into pain and suffering defines the world. This was a theme in earlier rules. Holding suffering in abeyance or holding back suffering ultimately becomes our greatest value. Death, toil, and evil. We spend a lot of time understanding that life sucks and there's lots and lots of suffering. And we ourselves are vulnerable. And as human beings evolved, they discovered how to produce suffering in others. And this is where evil enters humanity. Once you discover that you can create suffering, then you are capable of becoming evil. And we have the story of Cain and Abel. Okay? Evil enters the world with self-consciousness, and mainly the consciousness that we know how to produce suffering on others. That's evil. Conscious human malevolence is evil. Okay? And now we move into realizing the evil within ourselves, evil confronted. This is where Jordan Peterson begins to enter his own dark night of the soul, where he discovers his own potential for evil. So let's see. Then we go into, one moment please. What? Is there anyone over there at all? Nick? I need to make sure I have keys. Hold on. I have keys. So tell Nick to lock up if he has to leave. I'll be finished here very shortly. Okay, so at this point it goes into Christianity and discovers shortcomings in Christianity. And the Enlightenment also discovered shortcomings in Christianity and how Christianity ultimately fails the world to take us all the way out of chaos and into meaning. So he talks about that quite a while. In fact, he points out that Christianity and what came after, which was nihilism, Nietzsche and nihilism, both produced problematic systems that were essentially aimed at mutually assured destruction. So here are the problems with Christianity, 1, 2, and 3. You can go back and reread them. So here he's talking about what emerged after Christianity was sort of debunked as the way to meaning. What came after was terrible, was the horrors of communism. And that was even worse. And here ultimately is where Jordan starts talking about his own conversion to his current views. And then finally, so here's where he talks about his own conversion. And finally, he begins to realize that the 20th century demonstrates the potential for evil in human beings, the reality of suffering, and the fact that the worst suffering is caused by human evil, which was very upsetting to Jordan. And he came up with his concept of meaning as the higher good. And his idea that if the worst evil is inflicting or creating suffering, then the best good must be alleviating it. And then we get down to where we were today, where he is making his strongest apologetic for the service of meaning, almost a religion of meaning. Not to say I think Jordan Peterson actually is a Christian, so I'm not criticizing him. But in this essay, he is setting up meaning as the highest good. And he is setting up the highest value as alleviating suffering and suggesting a lifestyle which serves that value, those values. So that's like a religion. And he ends with this final command. I'm not sure command, injunction, that we should all do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. So, after 23, I think, lessons, let me see how many it's been. Something like 23 lessons. No, 22. We are finally finished lesson 7. And next time we will go on to rule number 8. See you later.